And here, under interactive work, we will look at what an interactive session is. We will look at why you might want an interactive session and also how to work with an interactive session. And there is an interactive friendly and unfriendly Python script. I will just show them to you and you can try them later. And then we will move on to the IDEs, Jupyter, VS Code, and Spider, and the on-demand desktop.
That we can take after lunch, I would say.
Yes, we will do the IDEs after lunch, yes. So I will just go through this here. This is just a repeat. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to list them here so you can easily find them. So some users like to develop Python code line by line. And if you are one of those, then you will definitely prefer to do it interactively. And you may also want to run scripts that is potentially calculation heavy frequently to see if it works while you are developing it. But scheduling it for each new line is slow. It takes minutes or longer. You could see here, this has still not started. So it's worth it to get an interactive job as well for testing. So while you're developing, interactive jobs are good. And ways to do that is you can either do interactive or SLURM on the command line, or you can use something like Jupyter. You do not want to run heavy jobs on the login node, and because of that, interactive jobs are better, or batch jobs. So those two options are the same. Interactive jobs will run on a batch job on a compute node, just like a batch job. So for HPC2N, you can use Jupyter. You'll do it by starting it through a batch job. I will show that example after lunch. For UPPMAX, it is somewhat easier. And if we have time, we'll show it there as well. For LUNARC, it is best to do it through the HPC desktop, where you can start it by going to the application menu and pick it there. We will look at desktop on demand after also. For NSC, you can do it through ThinLink. You can also do it with an SSH tunnel. Both are described on the IDEs. So I will just now talk about interactive and SLURM. This is the same as before. It shows just a way of how you should imagine it works on the systems. On HPC2N, it is not true interactiveness. You stay on the login node, but you get resources allocated on the compute nodes and you run with srun. On all the other systems, you will actually go to the compute node. And that is the difference. And you can see that when you test that you still run, if you say host name, you will still be on the login node on HPC2N, but you run the things with srun. So to start an interactive session, you need to allocate resources. And you do that in much the same way as you do for batch jobs. So it's simply another way. There is a command called interactive. It does work on HPC2N and it does work on LUNARC. It's recommended on UPPMAX and NSC. SLURM is recommended on HPC2N. On LUNARC, GFX Launcher is recommended. Later, under on-demand, we'll talk about that. So how to start an interactive session in the simplest way. And at Rackham, now I'm going to try if I can fit all them again. Sorry. Okay, so here, this is on Rackham. I will try start an interactive job, and I will just say this here. That will just give me a single core on Rackham. And I will just leave it here while it starts. And on HPC2N, you will instead use the command SLURM. And you could ask for 1 core. I'm just going to ask for 4 just to see something. On HPC2N, you have to also include the time aside from this project ID. So I will copy this here and let it sit here for a moment. On LUNARC, you can use the same command as on UPPMAX, aside from the fact you also need to add time here. At NSC, it's also possible to do it like this. Like that here. And there you don't need to ask for time, but you do on LUNARC and HPC2N. As you can see here, when you started with SLURM, you get these messages here, and you are told which node you can run on. But as you see here, you are still on the login node. And if you say host name, it just tells you you're on the login node. If you say srun host name, then it will show you this node you got allocated. And that means if you're running anything on interactive jobs at HPC2N, you must preface it with srun. Otherwise, it will run on the login node. On UPPMAX, you got the resources allocated here, as you can see. And here it changed. You're no longer on the login node. And you could do host name. You are on a compute node. And here on NSC, again, you are on a compute node. You can do host name. Yes, you're on a compute node. You are not on the login node. And usually, you will not just use this very brief command here with just interactive -a your project ID or just time or whatever. You will usually tell it what more resources you want. Say, how many cores do you want? How long time do you want it to run? Maybe you want GPUs, so you are telling it you want to run on Snowy. But it is possible to start it just like this. And when you are an interactive session, you exit it with exit. And then it relinquishes the job allocation. And here it goes back to the login node. You now again see it says Rackham. And the same here, tetralit. So as we just checked, we use host name, and then we got an output that had changed on all centers except HPC2N. And there, when we preface with srun, we see the compute node we have allocated.
Offline, I think. But we can decide on exactly how after lunch.
Yeah, I think I will just finish this because it will take
Okay.
me only like less than 5 minutes. And then we can actually start on the IDEs immediately after.
Okay.
Because I think that's, then at least you can do the exercises in lunch if you want to, and then we go to the IDEs. So I will quickly ask for this allocation again. And I will do it at HPC2N for the simple reason that it started faster. Okay, I will then load whatever I need, and I will load GCC. I will 12.30, and I need to also write load.
But are you in the interactive session now?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Well, I can load them just on the login node. I need to do SRun when I
Okay.
get to. Yeah.
That is typically not the case at UPPMAX at least. There you have to load it again in the
Yes,
interactive.
I am loading it. I am in the interactive session. It showed it here a moment ago, but I have started the interactive session. Let's see. Python. I mean, you can see host name. Then I'm on that, and as I say srun host name, then you can see I have an interactive session going.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, I'm now on UPPMAX, and I will just load Python 3.11.8. And then you could run a Python script. And let's just take this one that is called sum2args. And I will just go to the program directory. Here is this Python script, and I could say Python sum2args. And it complained because it wants to. So it got, and it should ask for it, but it couldn't because it was in an interactive session. So as you see here, I will also do the same on HPC2N. Okay, I hope you see my screen. I will just very quickly say one thing from the interactive work session. There was some issue with I think due to the router upgrade at HPC2N, so it did not actually have access to all the files and directories briefly. It wasn't a permission problem, it was some intermittent issue, and I will just very, very quickly show what happens. So the first regular one where you give the arguments on the line, you can see those as it is, but if you run it, this Python script where you have to interactively answer, then it will not show anything until you actually give some numbers. So you sort of need to know what it's going to be asking for. Okay. When you are in an interactive session, and this is only at HPC2N. At the others, it will work because they are on the nodes. Okay.